So hello and welcome. We are here today to talk about Battletoads and to give you an exclusive look at lots of gameplay from the upcoming Battletoads game developed by Dlala. So you've got myself here at Rare. So I'm Adam Park, head of brand and licensing. I'm also joined by, through a wall over there somewhere, Paul Collins.
Just to the right, hands on. Hi, Paul Collins, lead designer at Rare, helping out on Battletoads.
And then remotely from Dlala we have AJ.
Hi, I'm AJ Graham-Scrutton. I'm game director on Battletoads.
So, do we want to jump straight into some gameplay then? And then we can have a chat while we're going.
Sounds good.
The main thing we want to do was kind of try and do a new approach to how combats are usually executed in 2D brawlers. Whilst doing that, we also wanted to make something that felt kind of more accessible to a wider audience. So we didn't want to have long kind of combo sequences which you had to remember to pull off single moves. So kind of we really focused in on being able to do kind of any of your moves at any point. So you kind of see here that I'm playing as Dips. So I can do a combination of basic attack, a volley, which is kind of a buzzsaw. I can dash through the air into kind of a jackhammer drill down. And then Paul, who's playing as Rash, getting beaten up. Paul, what moves are you doing as Rash?
Yeah, so I really liked Rash, particularly because of his kind of more middle-grounded approach to fighting. He's very much kind of like a nice entry character for people that are maybe new to the series. He's my favourite moves. He's got that classic feel from the original games with that kind of big 5-hit punches with his fist kind of extending huge at the end. I absolutely love the little in-air move that he's got with his chicken wing, his chicken... Chicken.
He's chicken, yeah.
Chicken. It's from our
chicken fist.
Yeah. Chicken fist. Chicken fist.
So for someone like me though, who's more of a button basher, let's say, more of a novice, is it still approachable in that way too?
Yeah, 100%. Like you can spam the buttons and get through the game. You're seeing kind of the bottom right hand of the screen that we've got like a rank. Now, if you're just button mashing, you're not going to be pulling off your like A and S ranks, which are then in turn linked to kind of collectibles and achievements. But you should be able to kind of battle your way through combat. Like times where you will need finesse is you'll see that kind of the character that Paul was against there was blocking. He had to use his charge morph to break the block. But besides that, this is definitely button masher friendly. You just won't get to kind of enjoy the kind of payoffs of the finesse quite as much, but you'll still get your own rewarding gameplay.
But that's great though. So I mean, and that kind of harks back to my original experiences with Battletoads when I was younger. It was like that ability to just kind of, you could just about get through a chunk of the game without a huge amount of skill, but obviously playing it with skill made it an entirely different game. And we saw that again with just Rare Replay. The ability that some people had compared to me, who worked on the game.
I think that's a really good shout for it across the whole of the game, particularly with being multi-genre, is that we know Battletoads is very infamous for its difficulty and its challenge, and it was definitely right for something like the 90s where you might only get one game, so you really want to feel like you get your money's worth. But for us, we know it's obviously 2020, and just like Battletoads and the different games that Battletoads has been on, we've had an arcade one, a Game Boy one, and it's all about, one of the things I loved about Battletoads, it's always been right for that console and that platform and the audience that it's going to be intended for. And that's definitely here for us too, in that we wanted to make something that is approachable for new players that might have never played brawlers before, that want to try them out. But at the same time, it's an opportunity for new players to come in, and also people that know they want that hardcore experience. That Battletoads level difficulty that we've got in the game is definitely there for people.
How important is teamwork in the game?
Oh, definitely. I think throughout the course of the game, like one of our key pillars for the game has been making this awesome couch co-op experience. And every mechanic, every kind of feature and multi-genre aspect of the game has gone through that side of things. So we've looked at like how can we create like that in-room dynamic where everyone is talking to each other. The game plays great on its own, but it really does come alive when you start to get your friends together. And I think one of the things that Dlala have done a great job of too is that the mechanics feel great for one player, but then it just the levels and the setups, they feel like so different. It's a different dynamic completely when you start to play them together, particularly something like Mistreated, where you can then start to like kind of communicate together of who should be taking which part of the controls. Particularly in brawlers and couch co-op games, you always want to have that kind of light-hearted, almost prankster nature to the game. So in that kind of mindset of one of the things is, say for instance you've seen the flies where you eat them and you regain your health. Well, you want to have that communication aspect of like, oh, do you want to go and get them? But maybe I just want to be a little bit trolley. Maybe I want to just eat them myself and get all the health. You have that moment of, oh, why didn't you wait? Why did you eat them instead of me? Similarly with like when you're doing the puzzles, you could kind of put people out. One of the things I always love doing is that you can see as AJ's playing with Zitz there. If I want to, I can just take away. He's having a really fun moment fighting. I can just grab the enemy that he's hitting and take him away. But on the flip side of that, he might be in trouble. So me getting over there and grabbing some of the enemies with my tongue allows me to feel like I'm saving the day and really working together. So again, there's that really nice dynamic of the mechanic suite in the game can either let you be a hero or just give you that prankster mentality that everyone who knows me knows I love very much.
Don't we just? So don't play with you.
Don't play with me.
Is the short answer.
Don't play with me, no. This will be the only time I get the chance to play with someone. And another thing, actually, just perfectly as it comes up on the screen there is the participation trophy. I know AJ will say how much I wanted that in. It's this thing to kind of, if a player's not doing that well and they're not taking part, as you can see there, like, again, the game is so in-depth that I can't talk and play at the same time. I earned the participation trophy this time. So that means that I didn't do as well as I could have done. It seemed like Rash AJ was really taking all the hits and making sure that we got through that particular part of the level. So I got the participation trophy at that point, and that's kind of saying, really, I should be probably working a bit better. So again, like when you think of brawlers and local co-op games, there is that one-upmanship feeling to these games, and we definitely want to make sure that was prevalent with this too. So again, I'm still the participation trophy planner, and I'm not going to have that anymore because I'm going to let AJ do some talking.
Because you don't want it to be like school sports day.
Yeah, yes. I don't want to be the participation trophy. I want to be the one that's getting all the score and bringing it home.
So why don't you talk us through the hacking then, Paul? What's actually happening and what are you doing?
So one of the other kind of cool puzzles that break up the combat flow inside of the game is this kind of hacking game. So we're transported into this mini computerized version of ourselves where we have to move along these different environments, and there's different layers that require us to work together. So as you can see for here, I have to get into this to move across this barrier that's in the way of AJ. I will move away so he can get away, then he needs to do the same for me, and I'm going to do the same for him. And I'm not going to move. So again, we wanted to kind of get that feeling of working together and yelling at each other. It's lucky that I'm probably away from AJ at the minute, so he can't come back and have a go at me.
And so you were saying about obviously you control each other, but with someone like myself who isn't maybe quite as proficient as you, like how have you gone about designing this to have a good player and a not so good player? Like is the revival mechanics and the like? Yeah,
it's a good shout. So I'll sacrifice myself.
Oh, you will,
to show off a mechanic. Okay, so I'm out. AJ, go for it. If he wants to.
So I could revive Paul. Or I could remember that he just spent ages trolling me on the hacking game and decided to leave Paul to die.
And I think that plays nicely into the life system as well. So if you're playing single player, the way that we've approached the life system in the game is that once all the toads are out, that's the game, that's the screen wipe. So you get 3 chances when you're playing single player, but then again it comes into its own when you're playing multiplayer that you want to keep all the toads alive. So if I'm out, you want to make sure that I'm back in the game as quickly as possible. If 2 toads are out and down for the count, then you have to wait for the health bars to recharge. And again, it's just a lovely, awesome dynamic there too of like that player that's still in there, still in the fight. They have to be the hero. They have to save the day, wait for us to get back into the game, so that we can jump in if they can't revive us. And it really plays in, particularly in some of the more harder setups of encounters that they've created, particularly in the boss battles too.
So, I think most people watching will know where we are, but do you want to talk through this? I'm assuming you're good to say without spoilers that this is Turbo Tunnel.
It's called To the Queen in this particular level, but it's a homage
pedantic
to that particular level. I'm sorry, someone has to be on this, right? Again, like one of the things that I love that Dlala have done is that they've taken inspiration from some of the classic games, and where we have wanted to pay homage to stuff, we have kind of put our own spin on it, as well as adding to the multi-genre. So, AJ, I'll let you talk a little bit more to Turbo Tunnel, To the Queen.
Which one, Paul? Which
Paul, which one?
To the Turbo Tunnel, Queen.
Yeah, sure. So kind of, we knew from kind of day one of pitching that if we were going to do a new version of Battletoads, that we still wanted to have a turbo bike level in there. But what we wanted to do with this is kind of just do a new approach to it, and I loved a lot of the old kind of 90s Mega Drive games that did kind of behind you chase levels. and I thought it would be a really nice way of kind of approaching Turbo Tunnel, kind of a new game. That's kind of how we landed on where we're at with the Queen. It's kind of taking that kind of frantic but learnable approach to level design, and kind of just and skewing the perspective a little bit, showing you it from behind the head of the Toad instead of kind of that side view that you've got in the classic game.
So I was going to ask, actually, I think you just kind of mentioned it there. So this isn't procedurally generated, so we will be able to have people blindfolded doing this.
I mean, if people were able to play it blindfolded, they will be able to learn.
AJ put on a blindfold. This is where we test it.
I mean, I would be awful. We do have competitions internally to see who can play it on Battletoads difficulty without losing a life, and we all lose.
And the scoring system comes into that as well. You can see there the near miss system. So as it gets close to the obstacles, so again that replayability for some of these levels, completely out of it. See, we can't talk and play at the same time. The replayability there comes in from the scoring system. So if we're playing it 3-player, we're going to get that multiplier all the time if all the Toads are still in, and then that plus with getting close to the obstacles just to kind of show a bit of kind of showboating plays into it as well. I guess the mechanics side of things, so you've got that kind of standard dash on the analog stick, and then just to add that extra increase, that last minute dash that just hits me into an obstacle, you can use LB and RB to dash out the way for that last minute, and of course you've got the ability to jump there too.
So do you want to talk more about why it's important for there to be like a mix of genres in game? You've mentioned it a few times now, Paul.
Yeah, sure. So again, one of the things that we love about Battletoads is this multi-genre nature, this feeling of like you never know what to expect in terms of the levels, and that really feeds into the story again. Like with having this amazing writing team that AJ and Dlala have put together, that needs to be coincided with like these really awesome gameplay moments. And Battletoads is a fantastic kind of a bed for that. Like you never know what the next gameplay genre is going to be, so you've got that combat at the heart, but it allows us to have a little play around with, okay, so in this sequence we're trying to run away from people that we've kind of offended or done wrong to. Let's create this kind of almost kind of crazy bobsleigh style level, or if we wanted to, we could do something where you're maybe inside someone's intestines and you're trying to run away from them and get to safety. It allows us to just do kind of crazy different gameplay styles, which what also adds to that too is that when we think about the local co-op nature, you might be playing with people that maybe their strengths aren't in combat, but they're really good at space shooters, so that now they can be the hero when it comes to that particular level.
And AJ, was that something that was particularly important to you in why Battletoads?
Yeah, 100%. Like the two main pillars for me, kind of, that made me love Battletoads, that made me want to do a new Battletoads was, playable cartoon and genre mashup. And be able to make a game that has all these different genres, but it still feels like one big cohesive game was kind of the biggest goal we had as a studio for this. And like Paul said, like it really does a great job in that sense of like letting everyone have their moment to shine. So if you're like a Paul and you're really bad at combat, I can carry him through the combat level. And then if you're also like Paul and you're really bad at to the Queen, then somebody else can carry you through to the Queen. And eventually you'd probably find a game mode you're really good at. I mean, Paul's still looking.
Right, so we're in space, aren't we? I assume.
Yeah, so this is one of our space levels. So kind of the Toads have acquired a spaceship, and they're out there, and they may have offended a few different people who are now coming to seek their revenge. So this was really interesting for us. Like as a studio, we'd never done a space shooter, but we felt that space shooters were some of our favourite kind of levels in the old game. I think it was, Paul, you know this best, it was Battletoads Double Dragon that had a really good one in, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's cool. Kind of almost had like Solar Jetman feel to it, yeah.
So kind of we wanted to do that, and this had a really interesting design challenge because it was like, okay, well, how do we approach a space level that's fun, multiplayer and single player? And we really have been trying to avoid, in one player there's one spaceship, in 3 player there's 3. So instead what we did with this is that you all control an element of the same ship. So as we're playing 2-player right now, Paul's actually controlling the steering of the ship, kind of flying and boosting, and I'm actually controlling the cannons. And if we had a 3rd player, kind of we would split the cannons, so that one player would be the left-hand side cannons and one would be the right.
That, again, really playing into that feeling of someone's the hero. So me as the pilot, I'm really making sure that I'm keeping everyone alive, getting into really good shooting positions. As AJ says, I have this ability to boost and dash last minute out of the way of bullets. And then as you play in 2-player, then you get 2 people kind of taking over in 3-player. Sorry, you have the Gatling gun, so 2 people can separate out and start to choose where they want to shoot.
You know, it feels like you've had to do a bit of everything with Battletoads. So how do you even go about starting a level like this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take 0 credit for this. So this was actually kind of, these space levels were the hard work of kind of our lead designer, Grant, and one of the designers called William. So yeah, this was really interesting for us. Like I said, we didn't really have the experience in the studio to do a space shooter. And I knew that the vision we had for this, it wasn't necessarily like a traditional shmup or bullet hell. We really wanted something that sat in between kind of, you know, took elements of like the tactical and strategic elements of those games, but made it more focused around the enemy archetype, like something you might see like Geometry Wars or something to that effect. So kind of where this was really, you know, all about the enemy design. There is no levels to this, right? It's a big open space, literally, because it's space. So we had lots and lots of iteration. I would argue that out of every kind of gameplay genre we made, this is probably the levels where we played and tweaked it the most. And as you can imagine, we did that with every level, but these space levels, it just took us that little bit extra of kind of making sure that the spark we had at a prototype stage kind of was felt throughout the final production level.
I think it's also worth stressing how you're making this look quite easy. And I know from experience this is not easy.
Knowing these levels and having played them as much as me and Paul have is kind of, it definitely blurs how easy it is. I mean, I remember that I'd been playing it on Toad and Tadpole, our normal and easy difficulty, and like I convinced it first time I can do no hit run. And then I decided before the game came out I wanted to do like a 100% completionist run on Battletoads difficulty. And this level took me 41 minutes. And I can normally do this level in about 6.5, 7 minutes.
So, like, what you've kind of touched on it there, but what are the difficulty levels then on Battletoads? What can people expect?
Yeah, so there's 3 main difficulty levels. So there's Tadpole, Toad, and Battletoad. Super original names. Actually predicted by somebody on the Discord channel as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, somebody on the Discord channel actually predicted it spot on. Toad is like our normal. Toad is like the one we say, like, this is how we'd initially designed the experience. And then Tadpole is kind of like, okay, well, we wanted to make this a version of the game that kind of, I don't want to say anyone can play, but it's a lot easier for players who kind of aren't as experienced and are looking for kind of a more, you know, a more relaxed version of the game. In Tadpole, you get more health. The enemies are a little bit weaker. In levels like To the Queen, we remove some of the obstacles to make that track easier. So it's generally like, it's a more relaxed version, but it's not what I would say is like, you know, you're not just going to pick it up and blast through it in one attempt deep if you're that kind of difficult level. Whereas Battletoad, on the other hand, enemies take more hits, you've got less health, we add in extra obstacles on levels that are obstacle based. And I think that kind of some of the older Battletoads players who really like the difficulty level of those games will enjoy the Battletoad difficulty more than they will Toad. I think it's a different experience on all 3 difficulties. I still really enjoy playing it on Toad, but I think Battletoad will probably be the difficulty I try and do it on release day.
So where are we now? This looks very different, AJ.
Yeah, so we're in kind of one of our full screen mini games. So this is Emergency Stations. I don't want to give you too much story context as a spoiler, but kind of the idea for this is that as players, you've each got kind of panels that you need to complete to successfully get through this level. So you'll see at the top, there's like a sequence that has these symbols. So you need to kind of try and find the corresponding mini game for that symbol and complete it within the time. And this is a great one for kind of falling out with your mates, basically, because there's a reliance on each other for this. And so you can work together initially, trying to find the right panels, you know, trying to figure out, oh, you've got to do this one, you've got to do that one. But it quickly all falls away and becomes, oh my God, we've got 5 seconds. Why are you doing that wrong? Do it right, do it right, do it right. And it's fun in that sense.
And you know, you talk about the symbols, and again,
Yes.
don't answer if this is a spoiler, but I assume they're a language of their own right.
Oh, yes,
Right?
they are.
And
this is the Topian language, yes.
And is that something that people will be able to kind of work out what they say?
I hope so.
So people can look for Easter eggs, is what I'm getting at. It's a very leading question, this, AJ. I do apologise.
I mean, and I know you actually know the answer.
I know the answer. I'm being like the companion in Doctor Who by pretending I don't know.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so the Topian language is a font. It's the complete alphabet. So you know, when you see Topian written within levels or kind of within other screens, you will be able to translate that if you kind of have the alphabet figured out. And it's definitely worthwhile kind of players doing it for Easter eggs, for little surprises, and maybe for some kind of in real life kind of payoffs as well.
Ah, nice.
AJ, game time. Come on, 8157.
Oh, where are you? Come on, it's your go.
Oh no, have a go at me now.
Yeah.
How dare you explain the game to our players?
Yeah, exactly.
Again, like from my side of things, we've crashed this one. From my side, I love that these really break up. Again, when we wanted to have that feeling of like kind of delighting players and surprising them with things that they're kind of out of the norm that they weren't expecting, that really fits into the story and really adds so much different enjoyment factors that you weren't expecting. Again, it's that, oh, can we go back in and play this level again because it was just fun in its own right. I think that's you're going to get some really cool little moments like that inside of the whole experience.
Right then, so this looks familiar. So anyone who's seen the trailers we've released so far will have seen this. And so we've had a lot of questions come in about this. So do you want to tell us what's going on, where we're at?
So this is Mistreated. I'm not going to give story spoilers, but effectively it's kind of like a bobsleigh inspired level in some ways. So all three of the toads are kind of working together to control this censored by spoiler. And you have to kind of work for your level, jumping and grinding on different rail. So the great thing about this is it's all about teamwork. So when you come up to a grind rail, you all need to press the corresponding button to pull off the grind together. If any of you don't do that, then they become rendered unconscious, which slows you down and makes you more likely to get caught by the crowd of people chasing you. Then in terms of the jumps, anyone can jump. So it's really handy if, like what me and Paul have done here, we've discussed in advance and said, hey, while I'm talking, you control the jump and we'll both grind. But that means kind of at any point in any of the level, anybody can press the jump button and post the jump.
So again, that lovely thing I love about the trolling aspect.
There's a surprise.
Right there.
Or, if you look at it the other way, it's all about teamwork, isn't it?
Yes, teamwork makes the dream work, as we like to say on Battletoads.
That's what you like to say, it definitely is, Paul.
I definitely do.
And it does seem like super... I mean, is it a fast and frantic level? Is that the kind of the point of this? Like, very reaction-based?
100%, kind of 100%. Like, once again, it's not procedural, so you can easily learn it. But this is definitely a lot more reactive, a lot more responsive. We soon combine multiple different grind types together with other kind of mechanics throughout the level. So kind of, I think out of all the levels we have and out of all the levels we kind of tested and kind of put out to like a closed beta, kind of, this was the one that people kind of found the most challenging. And I think we ride that line perfectly of like frustration and reward to the point where, it's very much more-ish. You just want one more go.
It's definitely an interesting design challenge too. But when you think of it, this is like that one moment, this one chance that you're going to play this, and then you might go into a different genre, or you might do some combat. So you really have to think about how we approach this for players that are new to the mechanics, a little mini tutorial system, how we ramp it up in an exciting way too. It's like AJ says, it's a very interesting design challenge, and it definitely helps to get a lot of user testing involved.
So I think we've probably seen enough for today. So for everyone watching, this is obviously out on August 20th, so you've not really got long to wait. AJ, how are you feeling?
I'm super excited. I can't wait for everyone to play it. It has been, 2 years of absolute love and dedication from this team. And, even playing it now for what must be the 100th, 200th time, I'm still enjoying it just as much as the first time I ever played it.
And how about you, Paul? How are you feeling with it so close to release?
Just in that general feeling, always very nervous, but really excited. It was fantastic dropping that new announced trailer, and the reception's been fantastic. Thank you so much for everyone's support, and we think that we have really created this interesting thing that really has something for everyone. That I love to call this like a popcorn game, just something that's going to be this awesome moment in time for you, your friends, or your family. You can just enjoy the amazing 30 minutes of cartoon escapades alongside some really fantastic multi-genre gameplay.
Well, Paul, AJ, thank you so much for your time today. So, as we said, this is out August 20th, so not long to wait. And it's on Xbox, Win 10, Game Pass and Steam. So thanks for watching, and we hope to see your videos soon. Goodbye.